What if Harriet Tubman came back to modern-day America to make a hip-hop album in order to continue her work as an abolitionist? That's exactly the world Bob the Drag Queen creates in their new novel, Harriet Tubman, Live in Concert. Bob, I should say up top, you and I are acquaintances.
We do. So
full disclosure.
Nepo baby.
Yes. So there is a bit. There is a bias here, if you will. Not really. Not
and I
really.
will.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
will.
Thank you for doing this. This is
It's
fantastic.
my pleasure. Welcome to my studio.
Your studio is. It really shows how successful you are.
Oh well, thank you. Or how I live out of my means. Which one is it? We'll find out. Am I here for another year? We'll see.
Well, we do need to talk about the book, Harriet Tubman, Live in Concert. This book, as you can tell, I read and did notes.
You have notes.
I have things. I did the Oprah thing when Oprah has a book club book and she just tears apart with Post-it notes.
Yeah,
That's
I love
me.
that.
That's me.
And eat a loaf of bread while.
Well, yes, I am definitely eating a loaf of bread.
I'm obsessed
Sourdough.
with Oprah's.
What's your bread?
My bread. I'm really basic. Wonder Bread.
Oh, really?
I love Wonder Bread.
Really?
Yeah, I'll eat a good Wonder Bread.
Oh, see, no, I gotta. If it's a snack bread, it's a sourdough.
Really?
Oh my God, you get a sourdough.
You like that homemade stuff?
I love. Well, you don't have. It doesn't have to be homemade, but yes, it would be delicious.
If you want to impress
homemade.
white people, make bread. White people
Yes.
love. Oh my God,
We love bread.
baby, when you show up with a fresh loaf of bread, and if it's warm, they'll give you their firstborn child.
It's true.
They'll be like,
It's
take the
true.
baby, leave the loaf.
It's true. If someone walks in with a loaf of bread and says, "Just put it in the oven for 5 minutes, it'll be delicious," it'll literally be the talk of the party.
Oh, trust me, and white people love cheese.
Yeah.
Cheese
Yes.
and bread.
I think you need to meet my friend Jake Cohen. He's a cook. He's a Jewish cook in New York. Challah bread. Get into the. He will change your life.
Holla. I love some good. I do love bread.
Do you? You love
I do.
bread?
I love bread. I love bread. I eat bread I eat bread every hour on the hour.
There is nothing better than toast. The thought of possibly
What do you
having
put on your
stove-
toast?
I just put butter.
And
No, just butter.
wow.
Just butter. Who needs anything else? Why do you need jam?
Jelly.
I don't need jelly on toast unless it's white bread. If it's white bread,
And
I think
I
it
mostly eat
requires
white bread,
jelly.
though.
See, no, I usually do like a whole grain situation. I have a weight problem, so I try to be very conscious of the bread I'm putting in my body.
That's valid.
Yeah, true.
That's valid.
Yeah. Harriet Tubman, Live in Concert. I tore apart this book. I think it's such an important book for right now, especially
In a good way, though. Tore apart in a good way. Okay.
Yes, in a good way.
Because now I see the outfit, I'm like, I want to tear this to shreds.
No. In terms of like just the conversation that's happening around, of course, DEI and of course like all of the sort of the sometimes negative and polarizing conversations that are happening online.
I've heard those conversations.
Yeah, you've heard a few of those.
I have heard them.
So I wanted to know, why do you think this book is important now to you?
You know, it's really funny when people ask me why is this important now. I'm like, it's always been important. It's never not been important. You know what I mean? And some things are more poignant to other people at certain times in their lives. But to me, first of all, I don't know that this is a phrase, but I am a Harriet Tubman stan.
Yeah.
I've just been obsessed with Harriet Tubman for a very, very long time. Her story is so it's heard of, but like it doesn't happen again. You know what I mean? I really think she's the first Black superhero. I say this all the time. She is the woman claimed to have superpowers, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was to do what she did with such limited resources like she had. It obviously shows the resilience of a Black woman. It shows the determination for freedom, to have ownership over yourself and your body and your personage and your belongings and your things. And that's why, whenever I'm having a moment, I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I can.
Yeah.
I can and I will.
Yeah. I don't think, are there people who don't like Harriet Tubman?
No, but I think there are people who don't know much about Harriet Tubman.
They don't know a lot. Yes,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah, they're
That's
just
for
kind of like,
sure.
oh, she just kind of freed some slaves.
Yeah. I interviewed Cynthia Erivo when she did Harriet a couple years ago, and what I hoped for that and what I hope for this is that it does bring the story of Harriet Tubman to wider audiences.
It's the most wider and wider because they need to hear about her too. It is the most remarkable story in American history, in my humble opinion.
She truly is a superhero. So, how did you craft? To give me the elevator pitch for the story itself, but also how did you come up with the idea for how you were going to tell a modernized version of Harriet Tubman coming back to a modern day America?
So I was doing Angels in America at the Brick Repertory Theater. I was actually asked to do it by Tony Kushner. Tony Kushner saw me on Drag Race and was like, would you please audition for Angels? And I sent in a tape. I got cast. And when I was there doing this show, I came up with the idea for Harriet Tubman Live in Concert as a play. And originally the play was going to be like, imagine Hedwig meets a Hamilton.
Yeah, Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Yeah, Hedwig and the Angry Inch meets Hamilton. And the show's going to be like, literally, you go to a concert and you're seeing Harriet in concert. But then I got a book deal, right? When I was in 2020, when I was filming the Gettysburg episode of We're Here, and they were like, do you want to write a memoir of your life or stories and stuff? And I said, I got to be honest, I wouldn't read that book. I would not read my own memoir. I don't want to make something that I wouldn't enjoy. Also, my life is more boring than people think it is. I think people think that
You're
I'm like
young too.
Yeah, very. I'm just a baby. I think people think that I don't know what people think I'm doing, but I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I just write jokes, write books, and I do podcasts, and then I go to sleep. Like I'm not doing anything crazy. You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't want to write a book about me because I wouldn't read a book about me. But I do have this idea for this Harriet Tubman play that I think could be a great novel. So by the way, this is how I approach a lot of stuff in life. I see someone doing something and I go, I could do that.
Yeah.
Isn't that absurd?
Yeah.
But it's got me really far in life.
I mean, I think that's how a lot of creatives are. You just think you can do something and then you try to do it.
And then sometimes you just fly and sometimes you flop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, with this story, what I love about it is it's essentially all of these historical figures have come back to life in modern day America, and Harriet Tubman has something she wants to say. And so give me a little bit about the story and what it's about. So
in a world where historical figures have inexplicably returned to life, Harriet Tubman has decided to continue her work as an abolitionist, and she wants to do it through the medium of music, and she wants to write a hip-hop album. Harriet Tubman sees how remarkable African-American culture is, what it's become, how hip-hop has saved the nation, saved the world, and she wants to take part in it. So she reaches out to a producer who has kind of been shunned from the business. And this is his return as well. So they both get to have a return, except he's alive already, but they both get to have a return.
Yeah. And she says something in the something that really stood out to me that I loved is, well, first off, you describe her as she's very comfortable with uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
Which I think in every story you hear about Harriet Tubman, she was that. She was blunt. She was direct. She didn't hold back, right?
She was not particularly nice. I don't think she wouldn't win Miss Congeniality, but she would win the pageant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm really obsessed with the notion. That's a little bit of me in there. Like I really love. I do kind of love awkward situations.
Yeah.
And I certainly do not mind uncomfortable situations. Like part of me is like, if I have to be uncomfortable, you have to be uncomfortable too. That's one of my things. If you're gonna make me uncomfortable, we're all about to be uncomfortable today.
Yeah.
Everyone in the room is gonna be uncomfortable on this day. And I can't imagine how much of her life was not uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
You know?
I'm sure. Well, and in the book she says, or you write that she says, I wants to talk to a new generation. I wants to talk to black folk today. And I think you, the character, might be the person to help me reach them. So like how did you find that balance between respecting the love that you have for Harriet Tubman and the legacy of Harriet Tubman as this sort of historical superhero, if you will, but also making her funny, because there's so many books in this, so many ways that you describe her in this book that is very funny.
Well, I mean, I just have a sense of humor with most things I'm talking about, so I'll just be talking and then I'll realize something I've said ended up being funny, even though it's a serious situation.
Yeah.
I attack a lot of things with humor. It's just how I get through life. It's how I get through tragedy. It's how I get through joy. That's just how I navigate life, is through my sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I do want to be clear to people who want to read or listen to this book. It's not slapstick. This is not an SNL sketch.
No.
It is not an SNL sketch. It is funny though. There are some very funny moments.
Well, the way the character describes her, the general, the conductor, Moses, Harriet Tubman has more nicknames than Lil Wayne, which is very funny. I mean, like, that is arguably very funny.
And I would say she's more prolific too than Lil Wayne.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And maybe next year at the Grammys, Harriet v. Wayne.
I mean, well, speaking of Grammys, there's an audiobook version of this, which I would encourage.
Could you imagine?
I mean,
if you came back and that Peabody was replaced with a Grammy.
I can't imagine that. Actually, I can't imagine that. And that's what's so. I mean,
and if you're part of the voting audience, just remember, I'm just a sweet little
young,
very young, freshly 18.
No, but the audiobook for this is such like a valuable experience to the reading experience, because you incorporate, there's music in the book that you write, but then also in the audiobook you've produced original music for people listening, right?
Yeah. So I teamed up with some really remarkable writers. I'm going to tell you right now, This is the best music I've ever written.
Really?
Easily. I pride myself on being a great lyricist. This is the best music I have ever written in my life. I am so proud of this book. I cry when I listen to this music very often.
Yeah.
Very, very often.
I mean, it's emotional. It is emotional. And what I find about the listening experience with the audiobook is that the music makes the moment of Harriet Tubman coming back and the impact that she's having on this character and the character's own journey of coming out, of finding themselves. How did you find that balance between the character and then also Harriet Tubman and their relationship and sort of how you were going to describe him?
So to be clear, a part of Harriet Tubman's story is music. So Harriet Tubman did use music in her work as an abolitionist. So that's why I think it actually makes sense for her to come back and continue this work through music. You know, a lot of hymns and Negro spirituals are communication. You know what I mean? When we say wade in the water, we're talking about, you go down by the water because it's harder for the dogs to track your scent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The water's running south, so you have to go north. You have to walk against the water. And this is stuff that people know now, but obviously enslaved people did not know that water ran south. How would they know that? How would they find this out? You know what I mean? So because knowledge was intentionally being shielded from enslaved people, clearly. So I just wanted to incorporate the music to give people a sense of how important music is to our history.
Well, and also too, like in just reading the book, it isn't just Harriet Tubman or figuring out sort of or displaying sort of the Black experience through these returned characters, but also, I mean, even there's a quote from Nina Simone in here that I think says so much about the theme of the book. It says there's an old Nina Simone quote and that goes, "I'll tell you what freedom is to me, no fear. I mean, really, no fear."
Yeah.
And like, why was it important to you to even incorporate that quote? Because that hit me as so much of the theme of this book.
So the book really is about freedom and what freedom means to you. We get to define what our freedom is. I always talk about the quote, "No one is more hopelessly enslaved than the one who falsely believes he's free."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have to ask yourself, what is, Chris Christopherson said, freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. So many people have their concepts of what freedom is and what freedom means to them. And in this book, Harriet is just trying to help people get free. Like we think that because slavery. By the way, slavery was actually never abolished. It was just conditionalized. I mean, read the 14th Amendment. That's a whole different story. But she talks about how, we want to get free. And what are you not free from? Ask yourself, what are you enslaved to? What are you a victim? How are you a victim of slavery as well,
And another thing that really hit me in the book is the incorporation of William Dorsey Swann, who, could you describe a little bit about who William Dorsey Swann is for people?
Yeah, so William Dorsey Swann is credited with being America's first drag queen, the queen of drag. William Dorsey Swann was a formerly enslaved person who was throwing these balls in the D.C. area, these cakewalks where people would come and just dress up and explore their gender diversity. In the 18 and 1900s, y'all, this is unheard of. This is crazy for someone to, and by the way, William Dorsey Swann was constantly being arrested. But also just could not be stifled by the system itself. Was like, I'm going to express myself, and was applauded by people in the community.
And we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but in reading it, I mean, so many people are going to be coming to this book as a fan of yours, and they're going to have you in their mind first and foremost as they're reading it, your drag persona and just your persona in general online. And I see you in every character. I see you as Harriet Tubman. I see you as William Dorsey Swann. I see you as the main character. I see you in all of the characters, which is, I think, is a testament to your writing. But also, with William Dorsey Swann, it really hit that what you're doing with the work that you're doing in terms of speaking on the Black experience and talking and really bringing these stories and these themes back into the conversation. Was it important to you for people, to recognize William Dorsey Swann? And do you see even parallels between what you're doing with your art and what William Dorsey Swann did?
I wouldn't be as bold as to claim to be as prolific and remarkable and as brave as William Dorsey Swann. It's easy to be brave. It's easier to be brave now than it was to be brave back then. You know what I mean? We all watch Wicked and we all think we be Alpha, but we all know we're all Glinda. But they were like, I would do this. You would sit down, you would take Madame Marble's advice, and you would, grab.
I would listen to Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, exactly.
I do what Jeff Goldblum tells me to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it is important for me to get these characters out there, these people, these historical figures. A lot of people don't know, someone I found out about doing my research was Benjamin Lay, who is depicted as DJ Quake. So the book is quite absurd.
Yeah.
So DJ Quakes is her DJ.
Yeah.
he's a part of the producing team, but people don't know that Quakers were really instrumental in abolition, in the work as abolitionists. So I have this famous Quaker named Benjamin Lay, who was actually a little person and an abolitionist, and was a pretty intense one. He did some really wild stuff, which is in the book. I don't want to ruin it for you all, but he had some really interesting ways to get his point across.
Well, and in telling the stories, what I find, even just with William Dorsey Swann or Harriet Tubman or any of the themes of the book, you are, and what I love about what you do in general with your social media, with your podcast, with this, is that you are speaking to an audience that needs this perspective, because for so many people, like you did a game during COVID, I think, with your partner Jacob on YouTube, where you had him guess like black celebrities.
Oh, yeah, we did a game. Me and Monet had to guess white women.
Yes,
and then we had Jacob guess some black women.
and that's funny. Yes, that is very funny. But also, what I find so fascinating about it is it speaks to the legacy of segregation that still exists today in ways that aren't as literal as, a bus or as a dime.
But sometimes it is literal. My cousin went to her high school's first integrated prom in 2002.
Wow, really? Where?
Corinth, Mississippi.
Wow.
Or if you live there, Corinth, Mississippi. Yeah. They had their first integrated prom in 2002. Some of y'all at home think that slavery was so long ago. Baby, it wasn't.
No, I mean,
it was like 106 something years ago. That's Betty White and a half. That's two old people back to back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was not that long ago.
No.
So something I had to tell someone once to make them realize, like, we will never be alive long enough for black people to be free as long as we were enslaved.
Wow.
We have another 200 some odd years to even come close to being there. No one alive right now will have been alive long enough for black people to be free as long as we were enslaved. So how do you shake that? So people be like, why can't you pull yourselves up by the bootstraps? Bitch, what boots?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not only are there not straps on the boots, there's no boots at all. You're competing with people who have a 600-year head start. And every time you try to run, they just keep knocking the ground out from under your feet.
Yeah.
They're running on gravel with tennis shoes, and you're running on stainless steel covered in oil, barefoot.
Yeah. And what I think is so emblematic of that game that you did on YouTube with Monet and Jacob is that it shows that there is a whole ecosystem of entertainment, let's say, for example, that my melanin challenged brothers and sisters don't necessarily even know about. There's I would challenge a sort of a white person who loves just entertainment and pop culture to watch the NAACP awards and see how many people you actually know.
Shout out to Keke Palmer.
To Keke Palmer.
Entertainer of the Year.
We do love Keke Palmer.
We stand.
But she's been on this podcast as well.
Oh my God.
Love Keke.
I am really joining the greats.
You are.
Or
you really
am I
are
one of the greats?
You are one of the greats. You are. But I do think that's important to note is that even within how we consume media, there's a segregation element to it because we don't take the time, or it's not given to us by the higher ups. We don't have access necessarily to it, or it's not advertised to us. So do you find that in the work that you do and everything that you do, there is a component of, I hate to say it, but you teaching in a way, you providing sort of your own experience for so many people that maybe are kind of left out of the narrative, and sometimes.
Well, to be fair, we teach and we learn every day,
Yeah.
right? We are constantly teaching. We are constantly learning. I'm not a teacher. I have a lot of respect for teachers. Actually, I went to school for theater education, dropped out, didn't make it all the way through. But we teach and we learn every single day. And if you're willing to listen and willing to reflect, you can get a lot out of the lesson. You can learn so much, but you have to be willing to step beside yourself and accept that, there's just stuff you don't know. We're all ignorant a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we talked about this quote that really stood out to me from the book, but I think it really speaks to what we're talking about here and what you do with that YouTube game that you did, or with this book and lots of other things. And you're quoting, it's Harriet Tubman speaking in this quote, but when you black, it's all for the next generations to come. It ain't never for us. Remember that. Which, to me, that's so much of what you do. And the pride you have in telling the story and trying to bring Harriet Tubman back, or trying to speak about William Dorsey Swan, or really anything, even just playing that game. You're sharing the Black experience for a fan base that was introduced to you through RuPaul's Drag Race. They're not all white, but there's a good chunk of them that are white who probably were very much in the dark with Jacob, with a lot of those names being dropped. And that's a teachable moment. That's something that really shows those people, well, why wasn't there a Black cast member of Friends?
Yeah.
There could have been a Black friend.
Yeah.
Why weren't they cast? And those questions, I think, are valuable, don't you think, to ask those
how
things?
How remarkable it is for Black people when we have these moments, like to see Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl meant so much to us. And there was someone, I can't remember, one of those Republican news pundits who was like, when's the last time we ever saw a monolithic, like a monochromatic, he said. And I was like, then someone listed how many times there have been nothing but white people on the show. Yeah. And then they were like, oh, I guess it actually has happened this many times. Yeah. For us, it is really big to see our culture represented in the mainstream media because we have contributed so much to it. You know what I mean? There have been so many times where our culture has been presented without us. Yeah. When we weren't even present. And it feels really nice to be able to at least be not only be in the room when it's happening, but be on the stage and being, looking back at the audience.
Well, I also love too that you create space for people who maybe are ignorant to that part of it, who maybe are, and if they come with an open mind and to listen and to be a part of the experience with respect, like I think that's half the battle of this crazy conversation sometimes that can go in lots of different directions about putting people against each other. You know what I mean?
As Kamala Harris said, we have more in common than we have, different. I'm misquoting her, but yeah, we have more in common than we do not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially right now, I feel like class consciousness is actually coming up, and people are realizing that it really is the haves and the have-nots, and the haves have.
Yeah.
Baby, the haves have everything. Like, you think you have a rich friend, you don't. Yeah. These rich people have so much money, so much wealth, so much power. I mean, Elon Musk essentially purchased a position in the White House. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. That's insane. We are really living in a cacostocracy right now, which is when the government is run by the least qualified and dumbest people. You know what I mean? But they're presenting themselves as the ones. It's very Dunning-Kruger. Like, actually, I'm actually really smart, and you're actually all really dumb. Actually, I'm the smartest one in the room. Meanwhile, we all know, the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah. Also, why does it have to be so extreme? It feels like there's to be the smartest or to be the whatever. It's like, can't just people be good at jobs?
Exactly. You don't have to, the funny thing about this book is I started writing this book when Donald Trump was president. I finished writing the book when he was not president. And the book is being released when he's president again. Yeah. It took me 4 years to write 200 and some odd pages. I'm not proud of that. It's my first one, guys. Give me a break. And there was a lockdown. I did 3 seasons of We're Here.
You were busy.
I did a tour with Madonna.
Yeah.
I went down to the local bakery and got a pound cake.
Yeah.
It was
Next time, get sourdough bread.
Yeah, I will do. It was a very busy time for me.
Yeah.
But I finally did get it done. But I was able to, as I was writing, the world was changing so rapidly around me.
How do you find when you are writing something like this or doing, anything else that you're really doing, how do you maintain the authenticity of you when sometimes, like we were talking about the comments online or the negative reactions or the extremes of people giving you their opinions and it's always one way or the other? How do you maintain that authenticity amidst sometimes a lot of negativity?
Well, being thrust into the international internet scene, through RuPaul's Drag Race 9 years ago now, I've developed a very thick skin against my will. You know what I mean? I don't have a practice that I did to figure out how to navigate through people sharing really strong opinions about me. I just ended up having to find out how to do it because, I would just barrage the people's thoughts about me. And sometimes I'm able to reflect on them and say, there's stuff you can take from that. It's not always every criticism isn't necessarily bad. Sometimes you can actually really, really learn from these things. Yeah. And I've been lucky enough to learn from a lot of them. And sometimes they're just shit takes.
Yeah.
it's just a shit take, you know?
How do you speak to a fan base that, because you do have a diverse fan base, and I mean, I would argue RuPaul's Drag Race probably skews in the more liberal direction of the fan
For
base,
sure.
just because of the queer experience and all the things. But like, you definitely have fans who voted for Donald Trump. You have people who are going to be subscribing to you who probably, are maybe not aligned with some of your politics. So like, how do you find the balance in not changing how, you would never change what you say, but like, do you want to speak to them even?
I guess I never really thought about that. I mean, I'm pretty progressive. You know, a lot of my work is about my queerness, my blackness, and my complete and utter lack of respect for the religious institutions. So I end up scaring a lot of those people away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if there's some of y'all still sticking around, like, I guess, I mean, I don't know. I guess I haven't thought about what I would want to say to these people, but I think, something I would say this, it is never, this is a quote from Kinky Boots.
Oh.
No matter how far down the wrong road you've gone, it's never too late to turn back. You can still, you don't have to be this. You don't have to do this. You don't have to be a monster. You don't have to support a monster. You know what I mean? You when they say vote like this, vote like, vote like you're gay, you're trans, you're black, you're disabled, you're indigenous, vote like that. And now I think that a lot of these right-leaning people are really starting to see how these things are impacting them, because they thought they were being protected by this administration. So now they're realizing, oh my God, they were never trying to protect me. They were only trying to exploit me. One of the greatest tricks that the world ever played was these really, really rich white people convincing broke white people that they were better than black people. You know what I mean? So now I can get all these broke ass white people to do all the dirty work, so I don't have to. They will yell at all the white people. They'll yell at the disabled people, the Asian people. They made them believe that this country was literally for them, made by them, and with only them in mind. And then they get to just sit back and rake in all the money while you do all their dirty work.
Yeah. So since RuPaul's Drag Race, the internet has definitely changed, and social media has definitely changed, and how people react to stuff has definitely changed. So like, what change have you felt in terms of posting online and doing what you do now, the podcast, et cetera? Have you seen a change in social media since when you won Drag Race to now?
No, for sure. I mean, just the rise of like TikTok and the fall of Facebook, and the whatever's going on over at Twitter, and I will call it Twitter, and I will call it the Gulf of Mexico. I will dead name the Gulf of Mexico. I will dead name Twitter. There's this, I think that sometimes when someone is bold and brazen enough to be so scrupulous, you know what I mean? It enables other people to act the same way. I've always had this idea in the back of my head, but now the person with the highest position, highest office in America, says it. So now I know for sure I can say it.
Yeah.
But isn't it interesting how often the values of America are reflected by who's in the White House? You know what I mean? When Barack Obama was there was a little bit more consciousness toward black things. When Joe Biden was there, it was for old people. No, I'm kidding.
But not untrue.
Not untrue. Untrue.
Yeah.
We are a reflection of our democracy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, with that and with the promotion of this book and so many other things, social media is a big part of it. But social media right now has changed. And the experience, I think, for a lot of queer people on social media has changed, particularly trans people who, there's I mean, just recently, the whole change with the Trump administration's stance on passport identification for gender. And so there's so many different things that are changing for marginalized people. And you speak to, with a lot of your work, to marginalized people in lots of different ways. So, like, how do you... What is important to you going forward with the promotion of this book and how you speak to audiences that maintains your authenticity while at the same time kind of making it difficult, social media companies making it difficult to really have that conversation?
Yeah, they're even making it, there are certain things you can't even search on TikTok and Twitter anymore. They're making they're truly gatekeeping. Truly gatekeeping. And I would say, don't be distracted. Don't be distracted. don't be distracted by the Trump administration trying to tell you they're going to keep trans women out of bathrooms when you realize it was never about that. That's just to distract you. And also, how are you going to police that?
Yeah.
How are you going to police how are you going to find out who's trans in the bathroom? What are we doing? Panty checks now? Without doing literal assaults and human rights violations, how are you going to, if you just go in the bathroom, wash your hands and leave, everyone's going to be fine. You know what I mean? But they're distracting you with the notion like, I'm protecting you. We are just trying to protect you. Meanwhile, they don't realize that the Elon Musk and his companies are receiving something like $8 million a day.
That's a number.
From the federal government.
Wow.
While asking your grandma to survive on $65 a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's projected that by the end of 2025 or 2027, I believe, Elon Musk's going to be a trillionaire.
Wow.
Do y'all know how much money that is?
No.
Like, I don't think you even. I honestly don't think you have a concept. There aren't even a trillion people on the planet. That's insane.
Yeah.
On the planet.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So how do you navigate then?
Even right now, Elon Musk will give everyone on the planet $1.
I mean,
and still be a billionaire. That's insane.
yeah.
Like, come on, guys. Like, that's why I say people think being woke is bad. Wake up. There's a reason why they're saying woke. Once you wake up, it's hard to go back to sleep. You know.
Well, so how do you then, with what you do, because so much of what you do is based off social media, how do you continue to get your message out there when sometimes there can be even a distraction from the message you're trying to get out there?
Well, the truth is, I'm just doing my thing. You know, I for some reason people really are compelled to me on social media. I'm not that great at it, to be honest. I'm just what it is. I'm really good at talking. I'm really good at making people laugh. All of my social media isn't just like, it's not just, you know, nonstop, you know, civil rights, social justice. I take breaks to tell fart jokes.
You do.
I will take.
I watch the lives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I take breaks to play Fortnite.
Yeah.
As well. Also, protect your peace.
Yeah.
You know, you got to protect your peace, but also you got to do your part. Protect your peace and do your part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know why people connect to me the way that they do. I feel really lucky and privileged to be able to be one of. I mean, I was the first Black Rue girl to reach 1 million Instagram followers. And in my opinion, it took too long. It should have been earlier. But I don't take that lightly. And I realize that I have a lot of eyes on me, a lot of ears toward me. You know what I mean? And when I used to take the train to my gigs in New York City in full drag, I remember it's just so much cheaper. Like the train was like what, $1.50 or $2. I can't remember how much it was, $2.30 or something. And a cab would be like $23 there and back, $30 there and back, $60 just to get to and from work. And then one day I got on the train in full drag. I was so nervous to do it. I was so scared to get on the train. But New Yorkers don't care. They don't give a fuck. They really don't care. And I got on that train, and everyone in it changed the pH balance of the room. Everyone got so quiet and looked at me. And then I realized, oh my God, I have all these eyes. Everyone's looking at me. And I remember thinking to myself, I better say something important.
Yeah.
I better say something. Everyone's looking at me. I better say something important. You know what I mean? And that's how I look at my time on social media as well. So yeah, I do talk about social issues. I'm not always talking about. I'm not Dr. Angela Davis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not Martin Luther Queen. You know what I mean? But I do want to use my voice and say important things when I have these eyes on me.
I mean, there's power in getting attention. You know,
Yeah.
if you. I mean, I've always said like I'm not good at really anything other than talking. Like
I love talking.
That's all I know how to do successfully. Everything else I suck at. But I know also that there's a power in that, because if I can get people to listen to me, then I have to be aware of what I'm saying and be careful with what I'm saying. And
I make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah,
Maybe
of course.
I'm slipping up and
we all have.
I'm always saying stuff that I was like, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
And that's also another thing that's important too. Like as you get older, you know, just claiming that you're right no matter what is not a strength.
No.
It's a real weakness, actually.
And allowing grace for people to make mistakes.
I agree.
I think is so key. You know what I mean? That the whole idea of canceling someone over a silly comment or something. I mean, yes, some things warrant a cancelization, but like,
well, also, what is a cancellation? Like,
Yeah.
no one's really canceled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Dave Chappelle's not canceled.
yeah, no.
You know what I mean? I mean, I don't. Who's the guy who fucking Tony, the comedian who called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage.
Oh, I forget his last name.
Tony something or other.
I'd never heard of him before that comment. So
yeah, but
maybe...
he's not canceled.
No.
He's doing perfectly fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
It's holding people accountable.
Yes.
It's just accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you do dirt and you're going to find out that you're dirty.
Yeah.
You're covered in dirt because you did dirt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't be shocked that you're covered in mud when you played in the mud.
That's true. Well, speaking of dirty, I do need to ask you about Traders.
Okay.
See, that was a segue.
Gang.
That was good. Well, so your time on Traders was not long, but it was because you were such, I'm sorry, but you were such a dynamic presence on the show. I think it almost couldn't handle you. Like the show and the cast could not handle what you were bringing.
The thing about Traders is I realized being good at Traders is not necessarily great for traders.
No.
You know what I mean? If you're someone like Tom Sandoval, who like no one thinks he's a trader.
No.
And the traders don't think he'll ever catch them.
No.
So you're never gonna banish him.
Yeah.
He just walking around, you know, he's just because no one's thinking about him.
Yeah.
Lord Ivor, who's just walking around the castle drinking tea.
Yeah. No one's thinking about him.
No one's thinking about him.
It benefits you to frankly shut the fuck up on Traders.
But I don't have the capacity.
And you physically cannot do that.
Like at one point, Dylan Efron was like, "I think you're a trader because you're just being so loud." I was like, "Baby, I'd have been loud if I was a faithful. I'd have been loud if I was a trader. I'd have been loud if I was working craft services.
Yeah.
I'd have been loud if I was the first camera operator. I'd have been loud. There's no way I have the capacity to sit down and be quiet. I don't have it in me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was my first time doing a strategy-based show like that. You know, the show I did RuPaul's Drag Race, and I actually was on Last Comic Standing and America's Got Talent years ago as well. So the shows I've been on has been talent-based, not strategy-based, you know, performance talent specifically. And I didn't realize the power of shutting the hell up. Would I go back and do it differently? No.
Yeah.
I would still do it the way that I did it because I wanted to have fun. I wanted to enjoy myself. I didn't want to, you know, diminish myself to last in the castle longer.
Yeah, definitely.
And I did want to win. There's rumors like I didn't care about winning. I really did care about winning. Anyone knows me, I am incredibly competitive.
Yeah.
Upsettingly competitive. I will ruin an entire dinner because I'm very, very competitive. I'll ruin it.
I feel like I've seen that at a dinner.
Exactly. I'll flip a table.
Yeah. Well, so like I want to know from this book and everything that you're doing now, what are your plans for taking this book out? I know you have a book tour, but also turning it into the play that you wanted to once with Tony Kushner, or like
yeah. So I am writing a musical, which is also a big deal for me. I'm doing a lot of firsts in my life. You know, I guess I'm reaching an age. I'll be 39 this year.
Baby.
Just a baby. Call me Ariete. I'm just a baby. I definitely I went to school for theater. I went to school for theater education. And I've always loved theater, and I've always wanted to write a musical. And I finally found this subject matter that I'm really, really passionate about. I love hip hop and I love Harriet Tubman. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and combine the two. So you know, maybe one day we'll make it to Broadway. Maybe one day we'll go on a national tour. Who knows?
What if Tyler Perry calls you? Would you take his money?
Tyler Perry, let's have a conversation, but you can't be in the writer's room.
Ah!
It is what it is, my boy. It is what it is.
I mean, he could just write you a check.
I don't think he likes me, though. I don't think he knows who I am. To be fair, I don't think he knows who I am. But if he did, I don't think he would. I don't think he would like
I could see the money flowing for it. I mean, he knows how to do a live show, so, you know.
This is true. But if there's any other investors, I would like to hear your ears as well.
Wow. Well, my last question for you is, and I think this is the one
I don't want to do, you know, Medea goes to the slave house.
I mean, yeah. I can see it.
Medea goes to the Underground Railroad.
No,
you know?
I can't see it actually. But I mean, take the money.
I'll take your money.
Take the money.
You're not directing.
Let's just maintain creative control. Pull a Kerry Washington.
There we go.
Be like, Tyler Perry, yes, I'll take your money, but I'm the star.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, my last question for you, and this is the question that I know you get asked every single time you do any interview ever and talk to anybody that is being recorded.
Can I guess it?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
I know you're going to guess it.
Well, I mean, I might be wrong, but I always get asked the question, would you go back and do an all winter season?
That's literally the question.
There it is.
See? That's literally the question.
You know, I would have done the last one.
Yeah.
If they had asked me and if I was free.
Why do you think they didn't ask you?
Well, to be fair, even if they did ask me, I wouldn't have been able to do it because I was filming We're Here.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, how many big personalities can you have before it just gets too overwhelming? And can you really put me and Monet in the same room and allow anyone else to speak?
Well,
We suck
we've
the air
never
out of the room.
seen that, and I would love to see. I think people would love to see you and Monet compete against each other.
You mean see Monet get crushed?
Well, yes. I mean, I'm not saying anything because I'm also friends with her. So,
But I think we know who you think would win.
I'm not saying anything.
If you think I would win, wear glasses. We're all black and wear tortoiseshell glasses. All right, there it is.
Yes, there we go.
No, I mean, I don't know that I'm in a position now to go back and do it. I think that Drag Race can be a great tool to like boost your career. And I'm very lucky. I'm still going strong.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, people are still buying tickets to my shows.
Yeah.
They're still enjoying my work. I'm very, very, very lucky. I'm very, very blessed in a world where there are 600 Drag Race girls. Mm-hmm. Over 600. There's a Drag Race girl looking at me right now. Y'all don't see her, but she's off camera looking at me right now. Yeah. In a world where there are over 600 Drag Race girls and over 200 here in the States, there are like 97 winners. I'm probably inflated that number. I'm still, and I was in Drag Race almost 10 years ago. Yeah. And I'm still able to sell out shows. I feel very, very blessed, very, very lucky.
Yeah. Well, Bob, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
I will say this, though. If they make their prize handsome enough.
Like, what if they did? It's what? It's more than 100.
250.
It's 250 now. Why? I mean, Survivor does $1 million.
I know.
Like,
I want $1 million.
Yeah.
I deserve $1 million.
I mean, and it's on Paramount, and Survivor's also part of Paramount.
I want $1 million.
I can see it, RuPaul.
And then I'll come back and slay the girls, eat the girls up, honey, and bring Monet as my assistant. I'll need someone to carry the bags.
Someone needs to. Yes.
Exactly.
She'll sponge it up.
And she's strong.
Yeah, she is. She's very physically fit.
All legs.
Yeah, definitely.
Built like a Clydesdale.
I mean, you're also getting physically fit, so.
I've done a push-up or two in my day.
I have not.
You know.
My physical fitness plan is a shot I take every Thursday.
I've always said, here's the thing. I've thought to myself, there's two things I can do to love my body. I can either do the mental work it takes, or I can do the physical work it takes. And the mental work is a lot harder.
Yeah, it is. Well, because you have to find you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not mentally equipped for that. So I started doing push-ups.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yeah.